Welcome to the Bible Forum. It is Sunday night, June 30th, 2019, and the beat goes on. I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're going to spend the next couple of hours together. We're going to be talking about the events that have occurred this week, some political stuff, mostly religious kinds of stuff, but all of it tied together with the world we live in. The Bible Forum is a ministry of alternatives, biblical counseling and education. I just lost a screen on my computer. It's a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Donations to this ministry are tax deductible, and we would really appreciate it if you could see your way clear to help out with the costs, or our costs, for doing this every week. We had an event this week that made me wonder what's happening to us. Another young girl lured to an out-of-way place, no doubt sexually assaulted, and then killed. This one involved cutting her body into pieces and burning it in a man's backyard, digging holes and putting all the pieces down. And the question becomes, did she know this guy? Did she trust this guy? Was it an online kind of thing where she simply wanted to have a good time? We don't know. We only know this obviously intelligent young woman flew home to Salt Lake City in the early hours of the morning, texted her mom that she got there, 2 o'clock, and then proceeded to meet up with this man in a city park at 3 o'clock in the morning. What in the world is going on in our young people that they don't know danger when they see it? The man has been arrested. People are now coming out saying, you know, I spent time in this man's house. He rented out a room. And he wanted to do some things. He wanted to have some stuff. He was a kind of a strange duck. But what motivates a vulnerable woman to meet a man her family appears to view as a stranger in an out-of-way place in the middle of the morning, the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, instead of going home? She's coming home from a trip. Go home. The story we get is that her phone was apparently shut off almost immediately upon being dropped off in the park. Are parents not doing their job? Not warning children? Not training them properly? Is the culture confusing these young people? Do they really honestly believe that everybody's nice? People are worse now than they've ever been in my lifetime. Wholesale, across the board. People didn't act out these kinds of things in the 1950s. Thank you very much. It happened, no doubt, but not like this. Is the media conditioning young people to have fun, to just vent whatever, express whatever desires they have, no matter what? It is bizarre to my generation that a young woman would place herself in such obvious danger and not think about the consequences. And then the other question becomes, where's this taking us? Whatever it is that conditioned this young girl to do this, what force is at work conditioning us to do crazy things like unsafe, idiotic, insane kinds of things? In the best of worlds, at the best of times, young men have always been dangerous when it came to young, attractive women, especially if they're alone, 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of a park. Just saying. Do you want to be a billionaire? Whether it was the Big Bang, whether it was Midas or God himself, we have apparently identified an asteroid that is estimated to be worth about $750 quintillion in precious heavy metals. The problem is it's parked somewhere between Mars and Jupiter, and to date we have no way of getting at it. But we're apparently going to try. NASA plans to do just that beginning in 2022. And you can bet other nations, as well as private companies and individuals, are going to be in this race. Apparently there's enough for everybody. Experts say this thing is carrying around enough heavy metals to net every single person on the planet close to $1 trillion each. We cannot imagine that kind of wealth. The massive quantities of gold and iron and nickel contained in this asteroid are just mind-blowing. Does God have a sense of humor? Or what? The Reverend Dan Colson is the lead pastor at an historic downtown Minneapolis church that houses a homeless shelter, also a child care center, and several social justice projects. But this week, national leaders of his Evangelical Covenant church denomination are voting whether to evict him and his entire church because of disagreements over support of the LGBT community. If he is evicted from the denomination, it would be the first time in that denomination's more than 130-year history that a minister, much less a minister and his entire church, have been forced out. Collison said, quote, "We just want to have the freedom to disagree. This is a denomination that has always given one another freedom to disagree, even on stated positions. All we're asking for is equal treatment." I mean, disagreements on the color of the carpet, but not disagreements on fundamental core doctrines. This church is out of step with their denomination, and I would guess, reading between the lines, that this church is out of step with most churches. I mean, the ones that are really churches. I'm not talking about the kind where you just show up and you have a party. I'm talking about churches where they actually believe the Bible. It's a different world. It really is. San Francisco is the nation's leader in property crime. That does not surprise me. Maybe it does you. It doesn't surprise me. San Francisco is one of the more liberal cities of the nation, and this is what you get. Burglary, larceny, shoplifting, vandalism are all included under this ugly umbrella. The number of car break-ins in 2017 amounted to over 30,000. That's at least how many reports were filed. And the current average is 51 per day. People breaking into parked cars. Other low-level offenses include drug dealing, street harassment, encampments. People are living on the street. Indecent exposure, public intoxication, simple assault, and disorderly conduct are all running crazy in San Francisco. Now, cities are like this. I don't know what the numbers are for New York City, New York City's a little bit bigger than this. But per capita, this ranges to the top of the list. If someone predicted a half century ago that a Los Angeles police station, or indeed a Los Angeles City Hall, would be in danger of periodic flea-borne infectious typhus outbreaks, he would have been considered unhinged. Typhus, along with outbreaks of infectious hepatitis A, are in the news on California's streets. The sidewalks of states, this particular state's major cities, are homes to piles of used needles, feces, and refuse. Hygienists warn that permissive municipal governments are setting the stage through spiking populations of history's banes of fleas, lice, and rats for a possible dark age outbreak of plagues or worse. Skid Row is the epicenter of the homeless problem in Los Angeles. One reporter documented what he saw during his visit to the neighborhood, saying, if you want to know how bad the homelessness crisis has gotten in California, just turn to 4 square miles east of Main Street in downtown LA. The area is known as Skid Row. It has long been inhabited by the city's poorest residents. But these days it resembles something akin to a nightmare. People sleeping in tents surrounded by discarded needles and feces, their belongings tucked into trash bags and shopping carts. Some people shading themselves with tarps or using nearby light poles to connect to power. Others have contracted typhus from rats scurrying across the sidewalks. One resident was even found bathing in the water from a broken fire hydrant. As part of its mission, the city is pursuing a pilot program made possible by a $1 million Bloomberg philanthropy grant that would help homeowners install backyard units on their properties. In exchange for a $10,000 to $30,000 stipend, homeowners would be able to charge a small rent to homeless tenants who would pay their share through vouchers of their own income. The mayor says our homeless crisis demands that we get creative. If the backyard pilot program works, he added, the idea could be adopted everywhere, anywhere. So if you live in Los Angeles, soon you'll be able to bring the needles and piles of human feces from Skid Row into your own backyard. Not to mention the violence and just the sheer craziness that goes on with these kinds of situations. Meanwhile, homeless people keep dropping dead night after night in LA. A record number of homeless people, 918 last year alone, an average of 3 a day, died across Los Angeles County. They died on bus benches, on hillsides, on railroad tracks and sidewalks. Deaths have jumped 76% in the past 5 years, outpacing the growth of the homeless population. This according to a Kaiser Health News analysis of coroner's data. Year after year, this homelessness crisis is only getting worse. Not limited to Los Angeles, San Francisco, although California is crazy liberal and, they probably are setting the pattern. But in major cities all over the country, and even in small towns, it's like there's a whole segment of human beings that have lost their corporate minds. Or have they just believed the propaganda from the government? The one that says, we'll take care of you. We have benefits, free money, Just come and apply, we'll take care of it. It's not true. Never been true. Major cities, counties all over the country do stuff like that. But they have far more people needing than there is money available. And what they give is not near what people need. But we have whole generations now growing up who don't understand any of the realities of this kind of life. They think that they can live outside their parents' homes on minimum wage or just jobs they get here or there. That they can quit a job just simply because they don't like it. And there'll be another one. Or perhaps the government will just take care of me. Here in the Charleston, South Carolina area, there's hardly a day goes by that you don't see somebody standing on the street, on the sidewalk. They may be out in the country, holding up a sign. The signs say a bunch of different kinds of things, but they're asking for money. And some of these people look emaciated. Some of them look like they're doing pretty good. Many of them are sitting there smoking a cigarette while they hold their sign. You know, $10, $15 a day habit. But they don't have any food, and they want you to help with it. This is America at the end of the age. Thousands of people and entertainers converged Friday this past week on the Stonewall Inn in New York. If you've got a television set or you check the web, you know this. It's been blasted for days, weeks ahead of time. It's the 50th anniversary of the rebellion that catalyzed the movement called LGBTQ liberation, making the milestone with celebrity performances, speeches, and other reflections. People standing up there saying, I applaud you, I love you, all this kind of thing. People from New York and from across the country have come to take photos and to share in the legacy of the gay bar where patrons resisted a police raid, sparking protests in the street and longer-term organizing that made the cause considerably more visible. 50 years ago, people stood up for their rights, we're being told. And look where we are now. We've got flags all over the city, said Richard Walker, a 58-year-old airline worker from New York. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Thinking about what? As with all memories, time tends to wash them clean. But the Stonewall Inn was a bar where every vulgarity known to mankind could be seen and or experienced. To say that it was not a healthy environment is way understated. The police raided the place on a regular basis. Homosexuality and all that goes with sex out in the street was illegal. They knew it was a gathering place for everything immoral. People who were there tell us the police were brutal and they robbed them of their valuables. But what were the police really doing? Well, they were there to arrest people for committing a crime. It was against the law to do what these people were doing. They frisked people who were arrested, removing their personal effects, looking for weapons and drugs, needles, things they could be damaged by. The victims claimed the police were robbing them. And they could be. But what they were doing was against the law. Doesn't that matter? Well, apparently not. Not to this crowd, but to this generation. By the way, it's still against the law. Not the law of New York, but it's against natural law. Our bodies are not designed for homosexual activity. It brings damage. It brings disease. Something normal, traditional sexual relationships don't do. Not unless you're very promiscuous and you don't care who you have sex with. You know that traditional sexual relation, the one that's approved by God in the Bible? But isn't that really what the problem here is? It's not about sex. It's about God. Sex has always been a high motivator. Young kids coming up, they just rev up on this stuff. But it's God. The God who regulates cultures, societies, families, relationships, behaviors, and said, this is not right, this is not good. We do not want this man to rule over us. The great cosmic killjoy who wants all human beings to live healthy, holy lives. And what these people are telling us is, there's no fun in that. No, there's only good health. There's only respectability. There's only profitability as you have a job and you save your money and you buy what you need and you get a good place to live and you stay healthy. But these young people, and they're old people too, don't care about that. We're living in a world where people want to be able to do whatever it is they want to do and still have the same benefits that you do. Benefits of good health, or at least reasonably good health, not worrying about AIDS or anything else that's going to kill us. A life that doesn't include anal cancers that in most cases occur from you know what. And a whole host of other things that are part and parcel of this liberated society. It's an amazing thing. Welcome to life in America at the end of the age.